Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Desmond McIlwain, and he is a management side labor and employment attorney. Welcome, Desmond.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
Great. So, Desmond, what made you decide to focus your career on labor law?
Couple of things. Coming out of college, I was a public policy and government major, so I knew that I wanted to kind of get into something dealing with affecting policy and making change. And then in law school, through classwork and really some great professors who, at least one became my partner in the firm that I worked, who was a great mentor to me, exposed me to employment law, then of course labor law, and I just solidified that I wanted to be involved in affecting change with something that affects everybody. Everybody's affected by the workplace. I don't care whether you're 5-year-old and your mom says, just give me a second, I have to take this call, or you're up to, if you're 45, and everybody's affected by in the workplace. So I am drawn to it because I like the puzzle of, yes, we have statutes, yes, we have policies, but how do we apply them to people in real life? And again, the workplace is every day. Everybody has real life experience dealing with the workplaces. And how do we get along in the workplace and make sure that as fair as possible, we can keep the workplace a positive environment and something that, yes, there are times when you don't want to get out of bed and go to work, but the idea is to have a workplace, in an environment that you want to work, and at least you feel as though you're being treated fairly, and that you're heard, and you have a voice. So, although I'm a management side attorney, I hope that I come away with the impression that I'm trying to also help the employee, help the employer have a good work environment.
What are some of the common mistakes that you see business owners make when it comes to employment and the workforce and also the office?
Well, I think initially employers have to remember that they have to invest in their employees. I think you get caught up, particularly a small employer, you get caught up in making sure that you have a plan in place to develop your business with contracts, get financing. I think employers, particularly small employers, sometimes forget you have to have a plan in place to develop your employees. And I'm not necessarily talking about, investing in training and things of that nature, which could be part of it. But having a plan in place to say, what have I done to first get the buy-in? I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner. I have convinced lenders, I have convinced potential customers of my purpose, of my vision, of what I need to do. So now as an employer, what am I doing to make sure that my employees have that same buy-in? Then the second part of that plan is, what am I doing to make the field in the employment space as level as possible? And what can I do to make sure that disputes are handled in a fair and equitable manner, that everyone knows what their expectations are, and you can come to work and focus on the work. And that's work in a physical location, work in a virtual location, where you know what the corporate mission is, you know what the corporate values are, and if you have any problems, you know where to go, and how to address how those problems will be addressed. And that is the biggest mistake, I think, just from a global standpoint, that small employers make. They forget that piece. Just as you sit down and review for, again, how business development for the week, the month, the quarter, what am I doing to continue to make sure that my workplace is legally compliant, and then also just people compliant? Those small intangible things that make the workplace something, again, that buy-in, that the people, your employees, want to further the cause of the business, aside from just receiving a paycheck.
Right. Now,
so that's it.
Many small business owners, aren't compliant with a lot of the labor laws and things like that. A lot of that is because they're not educated on it. And they think that, okay, I'm so small, it doesn't apply to me. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Well, I would say that it always applies to you. There are federal laws, for example, that apply as soon as you have an employee. There are federal laws that apply, and the idea is that, again, going back to having a plan in place, you again have a plan to grow the revenue of your business. You need to have a facet of that plan to know that you're going to grow. And, when you get to 5 employees, 10 employees, 15 employees, 20 employees, or even more, 50 or more and more levels of federal law apply. And even on the state levels, every state has applicable laws that will apply. Even if you think, oh, I'm only going to hire 1099 contract workers, some of these laws aren't going to apply. Well, you might still have the Department, right, exactly. You still might have the Department of Labor knocking on your door saying, let me see your payroll records. Let me see, are you giving that employee a computer, an email address? Are you giving your contractor, your so-called contractor?
Right.
So the idea is that even if you think, oh, I'm operating out of my basement right now with with Mary and Jack, and that's it, that's the team, that's our business. The idea is you still want to have an awareness and always continue to educate yourself and make sure that you are reviewing your plan of not only how to grow the revenue, but how to keep in mind what is down the road in terms of what applicable employment and labor laws apply.
What advice would you have for a small business owner on where to go to get educated, to learn more about the harassment and discrimination and things like that could happen in their workplace, and how to effectively, I know you say have a plan and stuff like that, but many times, like a business plan or anything else, it's written, it's put on the shelf, and nobody ever looks at it again. And obviously we know that's not the way that we should do business. But where should a business owner go to be able to stay up with what the new laws are, new compliance and things like that?
Sure. The internet can be your friend. And you mentioned a business plan. You can certainly find template employment handbooks, employment policies online. And I think as any educated consumer of information from the internet, you learn and you have your short list. I have my own list, whether I'm looking at politics, whether I'm looking at restaurant reviews. I have my trusted sources because yes, you will have divergent views on the internet, and some are worthy of your consideration and others are not. But certainly I say look out on the internet, and I don't work for LinkedIn. I don't get any money from LinkedIn. If you're not utilizing LinkedIn as a small business owner, I guarantee you're not behind the curve, but you're missing out on a great source. Because on LinkedIn, you can type in, hi, my name is Desmond. I am a small business owner doing this, in this type of market. And you will find someone out there that has the same problems, same approaches, has experienced some of the same things that you've done. So in terms of keeping abreast, and again, there's a new, we'll call it a niche, but a new industry that I'm becoming aware of HR consultants who are very knowledgeable. And going back to having that plan and whether you need to approach HR and employment law issues like a subscription service for anything else that you might have, insurance premium, monthly premium. There are HR and employment law companies out there now that are providing at least an introductory, legally compliant, whether it's policies, handbook, approach. They'll listen to your situation and give you some guidance. And I say again, I'll go back out there. There's a lot of good resources. Don't be afraid of your federal government, the EEOC, the NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, the Department of Labor and all of its various administrations within there. They do an excellent job of putting out publications. Just as yesterday evening, for example, the EEOC put out guidance of its enforcement, its recommitment to Title VII, and explanation of its mission that remains in place despite all the recent executive orders against DEI and other discrimination efforts. So again, you have an agency and it's well written, easily digestible. So as a small business owner, I know you're flooded and inundated with information, but I can't stress LinkedIn and the internet and having your trusted sources. I'm all about leaning in to free resources. Yeah. And yes, I want your business. Other people want your business. But I do think also you need to be an educated consumer. I advocate that whether you're buying a car, buying a house, or knowing how to effectively run your workplace. You need to have a base of knowledge, and there are so many good resources out there. And starting with, and again, even on the state level, but starting with the governmental agencies that enforce these laws. Maryland has a great resource. District of Columbia, I know from this area, great resources. Every state has resources at the government level. Do not be afraid of reaching out to government to get your information. And also they sometimes conduct trainings free of charge, webinars. I encourage to lean into free resources, again, from trusted sources. And then it'll help cut your costs down the line if you do need to engage an attorney, if you feel that, because there are issues where you need to, particularly with investigations, particularly with sexual harassment issues. You want to have that, but you also want to be an educated spokesperson for your business and know what questions to ask and how to best go about
it. You just brought up a topic in saying that, investigations because of, sexual harassment, age discrimination, yep, whatever it may be. When someone levels an accusation like that, who's the first person we should be calling? Should it be an attorney like you? Should it be our insurance company? Who should it be that we should call first? Because again, I'm going to say probably 99.9% of the small business owners have never dealt with this. And I think a lot of them, the first thing they're going to do is like, oh, this is going to go away, which obviously is a huge mistake.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think, first of all, it goes back to having that plan. And one of the things you need always as a small business owner, between your handbook and your policies, you have to have an investigative policy. You need to be able, and that should already be out there. Again, if you 2 employees, 20 employees, whatever, you need to have it stated. If there's an issue, this is what will happen. This is who you report it to. And then here is the procedure. Here is the policy that we follow. Now, again, in terms of triaging, the one thing you always want to do is take any complaint, even if you think it might go away, whatever. You want to take it seriously. You want to address it. And I know that's tough as a small business owner because human nature kicks in. You take it personally. Well, what is this issue? Or you say, how did I not see this? If it's a trusted employee and, two trusted employees, and you're saying, well, they seem like they're getting along. I never knew this was happening. Wow. But have that procedure in place so that the reporting official is contacted. And from there, you make the decision. Do I reach out for the veracity of the investigation? Do I reach out to an attorney? Do I reach out to an HR consultant? Because you want to protect the sanctity and veracity of the investigative process. You want to make sure that as much as possible, the investigation stays confidential. You want to make sure that there's always an appearance, at least, of objectivity. And so engaging that outside party, the independent counsel, and again, this is not for each investigation, but it is, you have to have a policy in place. And also it helps with the transparency of the investigation. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's not the facts of what's happening in the investigation, but the facts of the investigation, because you want the accused to know as well what's going to happen. And of course, you're dealing with the accuser, and let's keep it in the sexual harassment arena, who they didn't just wake up perhaps this morning and decide to come in. I mean, this is something that's built up, so it's an emotional thing. You want to make sure they understand, okay, we take you seriously, we value you, thank you for coming forward. This is what we're going to do, step, 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 step. And then at the end of the investigation, I know it should be self-evident, but a lot of people forget. You wrap up the investigation and you communicate back. You don't have to communicate the results or the conclusions. That can stay part of the investigative file. But the idea is that you can say, you communicate and say, we've completed our investigations. And the employee is going to know whether you have to reassign or you have to take other remedial measures to address the findings in that investigation. So you have to have the conclusion and report back to the accused as well as the accuser. Again, I'm just going to reiterate real quick, do not ignore it. Prompt, it is we have to, something that invokes an investigative procedure, prompt action is always warranted, particularly if it's something that could be ongoing. If it's something that someone comes with and it's an offending manager, and then within the hour they have to still take instruction or deal with that offending employee or a manager, you need to take steps to kind of just to shield. And as a small employer, having that policy in place, having that plan in place is going to help you defend against any potential lawsuits as well. Sound policies, sound procedure helps defend. But most importantly, if you focus in on the employee, it helps the employee. And again, going back to that buy-in within your employment environment, to have an environment where employees know that they can raise issues and feel like those issues are being addressed.
Right. That's a lot of good advice. Desmond, what do you have a passion project going on right now that you're doing?
I do. I just became affiliated with Urbana Systems to head up some of their labor relations work. So Urbana Systems is a new company that is looking to go into small areas, cities where there's a lot of distressed properties. They have a turnkey situation where they can go in and turn distressed properties into habitable places where mixed use housing and other revenue generating industries can prosper. And so one of the great things that they've done is they're teaming with FIFA, the World Cup, to provide housing for the World Cup. The United States is in a great situation where they're hosted in 16 cities. So people attending these World Cup events and building stadiums and getting the infrastructures ready will need housing. And so there's a need for that and quickly. But on a greater scale, they are all about sustainability, affordability of housing, reclaiming distressed properties. And every major city has those areas where warehouses are no longer used. Hospitals are, new hospitals are being built. So what do you do with the old structures? Why not turn those into affordable housing units? And that's one of the projects I have. But also just, I like labor law. I like the notion that unions can affect change in a positive way. And unions they're not inherently evil. So that unions can be a collective voice. And I like, that is a passion for me, having a collective voice, again, to have an environment where it's a work environment where everyone feels that they can thrive and can be heard and achieve a common goal.
Right.
Something that I'm about.
That's pretty cool. I think especially from what we've seen, from the COVID epidemic and things where there's a lot more office buildings and spaces all over the place that aren't being used. A lot of people with the commercial real estate have in the past, couple of years have been hurt by, some of it's because businesses have gone under, but then just some of it is because more people are working remotely. So I think that is something that's important, because then that way these buildings and structures don't become big eyesores. So I think that's a pretty cool project that you have going on there. What have I not asked you that you wish I had?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground, but I want to reiterate a couple things. I just want to reiterate small business owners think of labor and employment law as something that's onerous, that's hard to stay on top of. I want to pass on the message that it's not. Think about how you want to be treated in the workplace, how you've been mistreated in the past. Apply that as you grow your business, as you think about your employees. Also layer in the sound policies, handbooks, manuals, whatever you want to call them, but approaches that that allows your employees to thrive, allows your employees to buy into the mission. Because you're talking about growing a business, you have to have your employees are the tenders of your growing business. You have to have that buy-in. You have to make sure that they understand and that they have that trust in the mission and the values of the corporation, no matter the size, to continue it. So I just wanted to stress that.
Great. So Desmond, if people like what they're hearing today and they want to reach out to you, they want to talk to you, they want to learn, more about, what they need to do to protect themselves, but also, your passion project, how can they reach out to you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, as I mentioned, Desmond McIlwain, and you can certainly connect that way. Also via Urbana Systems, you can reach out to me there, and we can go from there. I'm a slightly unique entity in terms of my corporation. I don't have a website, but certainly I have a presence on LinkedIn. So Desmond McIlwain if you find me on LinkedIn. Again, I'm going to encourage everyone to reach out to on LinkedIn. I think that is a valuable asset to have in your arsenal of keeping abreast of not only business developments within your industry, but other things like employment law or contract law or anything of whatever you need, you can find it.
Great. Really appreciate your time today, Desmond. I think everybody, all the listeners today have learned a lot from what you've said. And I think that if they don't have these things in place, it's time to get them in place to make sure that you're protecting yourself, going forward as you grow your business.
Thank you. I hope I left something, was able to relay some knowledge, and hopefully not turn anyone off on employment and labor law. So
great. Appreciate it. Hey, our guest today was Desmond McIlwain, and he is a management side labor and employment attorney, and I'll see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.